Okay. All right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you all for coming to this workshop today. I'll share my screen here. Let's see. I don't know why I can't find the share screen button at the moment. Oh, there we go. Okay. Okay. Hopefully everyone can see that. So thanks again for being here on our webinar today. This is the AAG Student Recruitment webinar, Strategies to Attract More Majors to Your Geography Program. I am Emily Feckety, and I'm the Social Media and Engagement Coordinator for the AAG. And I'm going to be co-presenting this workshop with Colleen. I'll let her introduce herself really quick.
Hi everyone, I'm Colleen. I've been a researcher at the AAG for about 3 years. My background is in geography. I got my PhD at UNC Charlotte, and it's my pleasure to be here.
Yep, thanks Colleen. Yep, and I got my PhD in geography at University of Kansas, and I was the undergraduate geography department coordinator for Oklahoma State University before joining the AAG. But so before we get started here, I just want to say thanks again for joining us. We're really excited to have you all here, and we hope that this will provide you with some tools that you can take back to your campus and your program to help with your student recruitment. So I wanted to give some background about this workshop before we really dive into it and why we're kind of doing it and where this came from and all of that. So our current president, David Kaplan, in one of his very first columns in July, he wrote about the recent decline in geography majors that he was seeing. And really the whole column was just a call to action for geography departments to look for ways to increase the number of majors on their campus. He also mentioned that a lot of departments as a result have been renaming and rebranding their departments, and that has been met with mixed success. And he followed up on that column with another column in October about the AP Human Geography exam specifically. And the reason he was writing about this was because he was seeing the AP Human Geography exam as an opportunity for geography departments to really leverage this course to increase majors. We know that a lot of students don't come to geography right out of high school, and so he thought that really using these courses, these AP courses, would be an opportunity. I know that AP classes have a lot of mixed feelings embedded with them, but his perspective was that we have AP Human Geography, we have AP Environmental Science, and we're developing AP GIS and Technology. And so these courses they're really here right now. So however we feel about them, we should use them as an opportunity. Something that's really interesting about the AP Human Geography exam is that it's the fastest growing AP exam right now. And so it's exposing a lot more K through 12 students to geography than have previously been exposed in the past in the United States. What's also interesting is that a lot more women are taking this exam than men. And so when we're talking about diversity and increasing participation and access to geography, that's something also to consider. He also mentioned that a lot of the concerns that people have with AP exams have to do with the fact that the courses aren't seen as rigorous as college level courses, but we do know that students who take an AP exam in a particular subject ultimately perform better in subsequent courses in that subject than students who take the introductory course on their campus. And we also know that there's a pretty strong relationship between students who take an AP exam and their likelihood to eventually major in that subject, especially if they perform well. So really his two columns were kind of the basis for Colleen and I, along with our colleague Mark at the AAG, to start thinking about developing some sort of workshop that would give all of our members some tools to use on their campus to try to increase the number of majors in their department and ultimately increase awareness of geography. So some background about this presentation: we initially developed it and presented it at 4 regional division meetings. Throughout those meetings, there were about 60 participants total in those meetings. And what we did was every time we presented this, we listened to everyone's feedback, we listened to everyone's suggestions, we did a survey, and we used all of that to integrate it into future iterations of this workshop. And what came out of those regional meetings was the workshop that we presented at the virtual annual meeting this year in April. That workshop had about 30 participants, and again, we did a survey, we listened to feedback. And so what you're seeing today is really this culmination of, I really feel like, a cumulative effort among all of these participants at the regional divisions, at the annual meeting, and we're really excited to have this final product that we feel like is really a cumulative effort among all of these participants who participated before this workshop. So to go through the rest of the workshop outline, we're going to start out the workshop with a couple thought exercises that we think you should really be thinking about when you start to implement some of these strategies on your campus. Then we'll talk about some suggestions for strategies that we've seen on other campuses. We'll talk about funding opportunities to improve geography awareness and geography education, including that K-12 pipeline to college that I mentioned that David Kaplan talked about. And then we'll spend about the last 40 minutes doing an actual activity where you guys can hopefully get some tools and ideas to start implementing these strategies on your campus. So we'll start off right now with what I call the student perspective. So let's get in the mindset of students, right? So we can think back, maybe close our eyes or whatever we want to do, and remember when we were in undergrad. And I know a lot of technology has changed since we were in undergrad. College is different since we were in undergrad. The world is different since we were in undergrad. But I think it's really useful to think back for a minute about why you became a geography major. So many undergrads, including ourselves, discovered geography on their campus because of something, right? The chances that we came in to college as a geography major are just really low. So think about why you became a major. What drew you to geography? Was it a particular professor, right? What did that look like? Was it a particular class or certain activities? Can you remember anything in particular about your department? Probably all of us were drawn to geography for different reasons. There probably isn't one single reason that we were drawn to become geography majors. And so when we're thinking about strategies on our campus, we also have to think about that. There's not really a one-size-fits-all strategy that's going to work for every single student. So it's really important just to think about the different factors that bring students into their department. So we can put ourselves in our students' shoes, right? Think about students on our own campus. What are their demographics? What are their needs? What are their wants? Why would they be attracted to a certain major or not? We can also think about students that currently are geography majors and ask them, why did you major here, right? Something that came out of the CDAG meeting was that a lot of departments were talking about how their students felt like their department was very much a community and had a family feel, and that drew a lot of students in. So even if it's something that doesn't necessarily have to do with your classes in particular, what's really drawing students to come to your department? And so I think putting yourselves in this mindset right from the get-go is a good way to start thinking about some of these strategies.
Okay, so second thought exercise is the spatial perspective. We're geographers, so this should actually be a strength for our programs to have this mindset already. I'm gonna try to make this thought exercise short, but if you think about it, each program, each college is different. They change over time, faculty change, courses change. There are also institutional changes. And each of your programs are located in different regions. They're connected to different schools. They're connected to different local economies. So questions you might ask to build this spatial mindset when you create a strategy for recruitment is, where do your students come from? You know, if you think about it as a watershed, what does your student shed look like? You know, and where do your graduates go after that? What demographics should your department reflect? This is an important question. Oftentimes we want to be able to show that we have one of each, right? But that thinking is flawed. A community college in Arizona, for example, should have different targets than a program, let's say, at a large research university in North Carolina. So it's important to decide for your program what targets you have in terms of demographics. Other questions like, what population shifts do you expect? For this question, I would refer to a book by Nathan Graw called Demographics and the Demand for Higher Education. I'll put it later in the chat box. It might be a good book. It might make you think about these future demands for higher education. Then where is your program located on campus? We had one faculty tell us their building is located on a very remote part of their campus, and that actually affects students' choice of whether they want to take their courses or not. In this way, you know, there is really not a strategy that the AAG can recommend that would work for all of you, but instead we will provide you a tool that that can help you build a strategy that is going to be effective in the long run. So, but first, we will provide you with strategies to serve as inspiration for your program. So I will start by providing a few strategies you can do on your campus. Then Emily will give you a few strategies that will require you to look beyond your campus, and also strategies that leverage social media. So let me jump into the student recruitment strategies on your campus. Some of them can also serve as retention strategies. So first, understand who influences a student's choice of major, and make sure these people who influence a student's choice understand what our discipline is about. So you can, for example, connect with undergraduate counselors, provide resources to help them understand geography as a discipline or career choice, right? Ask your majors to participate in campus tours. A faculty shared this with us. They said that geography majors that give tours typically then pass by the geography department and talk about their choice to study geography. And that's to prospective students and their parents, right? You can also find partners on campus, for example, study abroad offices, relevant student clubs. Make connections there. You know, find these people and explain to these people why their club somehow relates to a degree in geography. You could even think about sponsoring some of their events. Right? A big influence, of course, is parents. Make sure you have resources for parents that show what their child will be able to achieve with geography. Okay, so second, you can ask for a list of students who completed AP courses that relate to your program. This is the same figure Emily showed earlier, which points at an important potential of the AP Human Geography course in terms of broadening participation of women in our programs. The red line represents the growth of female exam takers of the AP Human Geography course. So that's a big potential there. If AP courses are not as popular in your area, but concurrent enrollment courses are, you should look into what is offered and see if any courses relate to your program. So third, you have to show students on your campus what geographers do. The AAG posts profiles of geographers every month. That could be a good start for your program. You can showcase this post in and outside your department, on TV screens, on boards, on social media. post them outside your department as a recruitment strategy. You can also post them inside your hallways, but that would be more as a retention strategy. Another strategy to show to students on your campus what geographers do is by inviting speakers. You can advertise it across campus as a recruitment strategy and inside your own department as a retention strategy. The AAG has a visiting geographical scientist program that sponsors visits by prominent geographers, and that's to colleges and universities across the country. So you can look that up, that program up. Finally, a third strategy that shows students on your campus what geographers do is by showing them what alumni are doing. Texas State University collects business cards of their alumni. They scan them and then makes them available on their website. They also keep track of their alumni on LinkedIn, and so they copy the summary to post on their website. So showing what local geographers do is sometimes actually more convincing to some students, while other students may be intrigued by the profiles that the AAG posts. So maybe having both is good. At Dartmouth University, they do something similar. They use the LinkedIn summary to create brief alumni stories. And then this is an example of Macalester College, in which they leveraged alumni to show to students what local geographers do. So a selection of alumni were tasked to make a story map of their pathway from education to career. It's kind of neat, and it also showcases the challenges along their pathway and also some exciting success stories. It's more nuanced than a business card or a summary, so some students may like that. A fourth strategy is to show majors tools to build their own career. So you want your little birds to take off at some point, right? So show them where to look for geography careers and help them with resumes and all of that. It may feel like they'll find everything they need on the internet, but that's not true. Yes, they will find any job on the internet, but you want, if you want to have alumni become professionals in the geography discipline, you'll have to point them at the more specific resources. So you could point to AAG Jobs and Careers website as a starting point. If they are interested to continue their education, you can point them to the Guide to Geography programs. This is a guide the AAG updates every year. We ultimately turn the guide into an interactive online map, so it's easy for students to search for programs by degrees offered or specialties. We're actually in the process of updating the guide, so if your program would like to be featured in it, you can contact us. You can also send your majors to our Jobs and Careers Center during the annual meeting. Each year we offer mentoring sessions, resume building workshops, and so forth. Well, at least we hope we'll be able to have those workshops in person again, but we offered some of them virtually. Again, your program can also provide tools that are specific to your local area. George Mason University, for example, compiled a list of employers by sector, which they point their students to. I will let Emily take over and talk about off-campus strategies.
Yep. Thanks, Colleen. So we also had some suggestions of more outreach ideas that you could do beyond just the students that are at your campus. We've mentioned the AP class a lot. If you don't know, you can go to College Board's AP website, and they have a tool where you can look up to see what schools in your particular area are offering certain AP courses. So if you're looking for environmental science or if you're looking for human geography, you can find that on their website. You just type in a particular city, that might be part of your catchment area for your university or something like that. And you can find all of the schools that are listed there so that you can directly outreach to those teachers and make those connections. The AAG also has a program that we jointly host with Esri, if you're not familiar, called the GeoMentor program. And this is to increase geospatial education in K through 12. It's a network of volunteers who connect with local teachers, and they'll come into the class, do demonstrations and other geospatial activities. Anyone can volunteer for this, even if you don't have GIS experience. So if you're interested in volunteering, or if you just want to let your local teachers know that this is a place that they can connect with geography professionals, it's a pretty great resource. The AAG is also doing something where we will send our jobs and careers materials to high school guidance counselors. So we have this link right here, and what you do is you just fill out all the information for your local high school guidance counselor, and we'll send them a careers packet in the mail of information about geography careers. And then I wanted to show this. It's a pretty neat example, I think, although it maybe is a little specific geographically to Nova Scotia. But something that the Geomatics Association of Nova Scotia did was they have a specific geography program. And what they did was they found someone from every high school in Nova Scotia who had graduated with a geography degree from that program, and they showcased them on this poster series. So what they did was they took a photo of each student at their job, talked about where they went to high school, how they went to this geography program, and then they sent these posters to the local high schools. So every high school in Nova Scotia has a poster of a student who became a geography major. This might be a little ambitious for some people, but maybe it could work in some places. Even if it doesn't work with high schools, it could work with just your campus and showcasing people from your campus that have graduated with geography degrees. Okay, I know that a lot of departments are really interested in using social media to try to increase their number of majors or their outreach on their campus. So I wanted to talk a little bit about some quick strategies that you can use on that. Social media is, of course, pretty great because it is free, but it does take time. So even though the monetary cost is zero, the time cost is usually pretty significant, but it can definitely have payouts. I'll just talk about a couple social networks. So Twitter, these are two examples of geography departments that I think have pretty great Twitter accounts. I think Twitter is really good if you want to raise the profile of your department on your campus or with parents or alumni. I would use Twitter with a department to connect to other departments on campus, to connect to college, to connect to your university, to like make sure that your university is on the college radar, really, or your department, sorry, is on the university radar. So if you're ever having an event in your department, or if you have a big research project, or some of your faculty got a grant, and you want to tweet about that, make sure that you're tagging the College of Arts and Sciences, you're tagging the university, maybe you're tagging the president if this is something that's like of interest to them. Maybe you're tagging other research facilities on your campus. It's all about spreading awareness, because as someone who runs social media for AAG, if I was running the social media for the College of Arts and Sciences, I'd be constantly looking for content to put on my account. And if I'm always seeing the geography department tagging me in things, I could be like, oh, the geography department does great things. So this is really about elevating your department on your campus, which of course makes geography have a bigger presence. Instagram, I think, is a really good network for connecting directly with students. These are two examples from University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire and California State University Fullerton and their geography clubs. I think it's a really good way to showcase the student perspective of your department, what students do, what their clubs do, any courses that might be of interest, new classes, things like that that are fun. You could also even have the student club run this account themselves, and then that really provides the student perspective of what your department is like. The last thing I want to just say really quick about social media is the importance of consistency and scheduling. I think that social media is a great resource, but not if it is only sparingly used. We've all looked up a social media account and saw that they haven't posted something in 2 years, and then it just feels a little kind of old and sad. So something to keep in mind is to make sure that you have someone that's assigned to manage the account. Something that would be really great, I think, is if you counted that work of managing the account as the service to the department for a particular faculty member. Something else to keep in mind is that pre-scheduling things is really key. There's a lot of free tools out there like Hootsuite where you can schedule a calendar of social media content in advance. So you could spend maybe a couple hours on a Friday afternoon just scheduling out for the next couple weeks or month content, so that you make sure that you're tagging the right people, that you're getting all the information out to the public, and that you're consistently having information available. Now we'll go on to some funding opportunities.
Yeah. So in terms of recruitment strategies, some are more time consuming than others. So we wanted to provide a few ideas in terms of funding for this kind of effort and examples maybe of active projects that are funded. Again, I want to emphasize to be aware of your immediate connection to local schools and to the local economy. Understand that a big portion of your students come from local schools who have a specific curriculum there in geography or not at all. Maybe that's good for you to find out what kind of curriculum they come with. Understand that you have an important influence on your local economy and also on your local schools in terms of curriculum. So in terms of the local economy, some may need graduates with geography knowledge and skills, whether they know it or not. You know, that is something that maybe you see as an awareness campaign of why these local companies need your graduates. Connecting locally, however, is time consuming. So we're gonna try to find to give you some funding opportunities, but it can pay off over time. So a few active projects we have that try to make these connections. For example, AAG's Including Geography is an initiative to inform strategies to modernize geography curriculum while increasing capacities to be more inclusive in geography courses, support teacher learning. Obviously, our discipline changes constantly, so teacher learning is important, professional development, and can also be measured for effectiveness. So, for example, in the San Diego area, faculty at San Diego State University and UC Riverside are initiating what is called a researcher practitioner partnership, RPP for short, with teachers at the Sweetwater Union High School District. So the goals of this partnership are manyfold, but a significant goal is to explore the possibility to insert geography concepts into computer science curriculum and vice versa. RPPs are a model that has gained attention because they have a good potential to improve communication between K through 12 teachers and college faculty to improve education on the long run. So the AAG is coordinating this new partnership in San Diego in hopes that this pilot RPP can serve as a model for RPPs in other districts or other states. The NCRAG's Powerful Geography project is developing a bottom-up curriculum approach that accounts for the diversity of students' life and career aspiration. What they're really trying to do is connect students, their education with careers. So they're trying to develop lessons that convey geography's applications and relevance to everyday life and wider society. A few funding opportunities that may support efforts that are more time consuming. First, we have Departmental Awards. So look there for those awards, you know, nominate certain programs. We rotate between community colleges, master's, bachelor's programs. So go back to that page regularly. And then I talked about research practice partnerships, RPPs. These are models of improving education that are increasingly being funded. The WT Grant Foundation is one of the foundations that funds these RPPs, the Spencer Foundation too, and then recently the CS for All program at the NSF started funding these RPPs. In terms of broadening participation in STEM, there's huge funding opportunities there just to have projects that try to broaden the participation of underserved groups. So the NSF is a big funder there, and actually in the past, the AAG received funding to do just that. And then the NCRAG is a good resource for educational research for geography. So powerful geography, for example, if you're interested to do that connection with industry, NCRAG is a good place to look. So in summary, about recruitment strategies are two things. You need to be practical and try to leverage your scholarly principles. So be practical by considering which options make sense for your program and for your student bodies. And identify people who are able to conduct a strategy with you. So it's one thing to have the idea, but to actually implement it, you'll have to be practical by, identifying those few staff, faculty, or even students to help you in this strategy. Write that down. Don't just think it in your head. And then use scholarly principles. Remember the student and spatial perspectives and learn from those perspectives. Don't just think you know the student perspective. Ask your students what their perspectives are. Try different strategies and measure them to assess what works. And then report back to the AAG. So we are interested to build a repository of strategies that were or were not effective, so that we can help other programs. One of the main comments that we received from this workshop is, well, can you let us know which strategies were effective? And we would love to be able to provide that information, but that means we have to receive information from all of these programs and their level of effectiveness. So that's something that will be part of the tool later on.
Okay, we've reached the activity where you guys get to stop listening to us talk and actually do some talking yourself. So if you're not familiar with the way that Zoom works, on my end, I have the capability to automatically divide all of you up into little mini rooms. So what I'm going to do in a minute here is divide you up into small groups of 4 to 5 people. You should get a thing that will pop up on your screen, and it'll just tell you, click here, you're going to go to a room. So if you click that, then it will send you into a smaller room that only has 4 to 5 people so that you can have a little conversation amongst yourself. And those rooms won't be recorded, just so you know. So what we're going to do is we'll break out into a room for a little bit to talk about, introduce yourselves and talk about some strategies on your campus. Then we'll regroup back into this room. The way that will work is I'll pull you back. You'll get a little thing again that pops up on your screen. And you just click it and you'll come back into the main room. And then we'll talk about the assessment tool that Colleen alluded to. And then we'll break back out into our Zoom rooms to talk about some specific strategies that you can maybe start to develop on your own campus using that tool. And then we'll bring ourselves back again and do a little bit of a sharing of things that came up in your room. And then lastly, what we're going to ask you to do is go into your room again and talk about some ways that the AAG might be able to support you, right? We're a membership organization and you're our members, and we want to make sure that we're supporting you. So the way we can do that is by knowing what ways can really help to support you. So for the first breakout here, what we'll do is we'll take about 10 minutes and you guys can introduce yourself to everyone else. and mention if your program or department has had any particular recruitment strategy in the past, or if you've just been kind of winging it, you know, any way works. And then what we'd like you to do is to discuss one or more recruitment strategy you learned about today and think about why it might or might not be successful for your program based on those thought exercises we had at the beginning. So Colleen right now should have been posting this text into the chat. So you might want to copy that text from the chat so that you have these questions when you go to the room. You won't be able to see this slide when you go into the breakout room. So I want to make sure that you have those questions to talk. And then after 10 minutes, you'll be automatically brought back here. So let's see if that sounds good to everyone. I will stop sharing my screen and I'll divide you all up. Okay, and I'll see you all in about 10 minutes.
Did you pause the... So welcome back to the main Zoom room. I hope you enjoyed your smaller discussions and get to meet a few new people. Zoom rooms are interesting. We noticed that like a lot of people called off when we talked about Zoom breakout rooms. So we're happy with the people who kept on going and were willing to have these smaller group discussions. So since this is a larger group online, it's going to be really hard to regroup and really have like a 30-person discussion online. So what we are going to do is try to moderate it through a combination of chat and then raising hands. So you should have the ability to raise your hand. So whenever we ask you to raise your hand, don't just physically raise your hand, especially if your camera is not on, but you can like raise your hand in the options. So first, I would like each of you to write into the chat box any strategies your program has thought about or that were discussed during your breakouts that could help in terms of responding to the COVID-19 impacts. This is something that Emily and I recognize we did not cover any strategies in response to COVID-19, but this is these may be strategies that you're looking for right now. So any recruitment strategies that could help, that you think could help in response to COVID-19, post them in the chat box right now. Maybe that was discussed during your breakout discussion. And what Emily and I will do is read those comments, and during the next breakout, we'll scan those comments and maybe provide the selection of those for you by the end of this webinar. So I'll give you a few seconds to write something down in the chat box if you have any ideas or if you thought about something during your breakout rooms before I present the tool we promised you. Okay, so I'll leave you in a 30-second awkward silence so that you can type something in the chat box. And if you're done with writing the message in chat, you can copy the link that's on the slide. Emily also pasted it in the chat box earlier. I'm not sure if you can see it. If not, she'll copy and paste it. This will lead you to a PDF document of the recruitment tool that I will present shortly. Okay, so let me present to you this college student recruitment planning and assessment tool. Can everyone see that document? Yep. So you have it in PDF. I have it as a Google Doc right now. Basically, the introduction to this tool is the same as what we said in the webinar, is that finding strategies to recruit students that are effective for a program requires a continuous trial and error. That's that scholarly principle that you have to take on with these strategies. There's no one strategy that works for every student or in every program. So your best bet will be to implement several strategies throughout an academic cycle, and to make sure that you measure outcomes at the end of each cycle. You can't develop effective strategies if you're not measuring them. So this tool works in 4 parts. Part 1 is for you to take 30 or 40 minutes to answer 4 questions that we've identified. Okay. Part 2 is, once you've drafted these answers to the questions, you need to reach out to potential support staff, faculty, and students that you think will be part of that strategy. So now that you have the bare bones of your strategy, it's time to get on the same page with your program, with the people that are part of your program. You can schedule a meeting with a core group to make adjustments to your draft strategy, which you developed in part 1. And based on their input, you're going to refine that strategy. You're also going to draft an action plan for the semester ahead, or any other cycle you have in mind, maybe a full academic year, whatever works. By the end of that one meeting you have with that core group, you should identify who could do what and how often you should check in with one another. So you could even, we'll share the Google Doc version of it. You can take a copy of it, and you could even take notes of your meetings in here. Part 3 is at the end of the semester or other cycle you have in mind, you have to document your failures and your successes. So write down whether the outcomes of each strategy surprised you, and if you have a way to interpret or explain the failure or success of a strategy. So write down, given the measuring or tracking that we did, it seems that the strategy is effective or not effective, or it surprised us in what ways it was effective or not effective. You need to document that. So part 4 is very valuable for us at the AG. Share your strategies and their level of effectiveness with us. So at the end of the semester or other cycle, share your strategies back to the AG along with the process you used and along with the level of effectiveness. So you can send that anytime in any format to either me or Emily. Any format can also be, if you prefer having a discussion about this, a call, we're open to that too. After part 4, you start over and go back to part 1, which is to take 30 to 40 minutes to answer 4 questions below, which is basically to pick strategies. But since you've already documented your failures and successes and tried to explain or interpret why certain things worked or not, this is going to inform this part 1 in the next cycle. But anyway, this is helping you create that cycle of trial and error, and on the long run, build a strategy that is effective for your program. So in the second Zoom Breakout Room, right? I would like you to get more acquainted with part 1 of this tool. So this is your first step at building a strategy long-term. So open the link that we've shared with you on your laptop or on your phone before you go into the Zoom Breakout Room. Basically, you will all pretend to be faculty or staff of the same geography program. To do that, you just select one person in the room, you give them 1 minute or less to get a glimpse of what their program is, just to get like a sense of what we're working with. And then you just try to answer with them questions in step 1 of the recruitment tool, as if you're all part of the same program. Make sense? So we will see you back after 10 minutes. And we're breaking out now. So a lot of you have highlighted the fact that, you know, COVID-19 is basically like highlighting the importance of geography skills, which I agree with. The real question to ask is, how do you recruit students that way? In what tangible form do you do that? So a lot of people have mentioned we have to extend our use of social media to reach students in virtual ways. If most of your recruitment was done in person, you are going to have to compensate for that virtually. So if you have online courses or online courses in the works, then advertise those extensively, work on those predominantly, to have your program on track to be able to tell students, like, you can be part of our program. We will have something in place. Also, I was thinking many students may look for graduate degrees rather than to try on this job market right now. So try to highlight your graduate degrees, highlight current uses of geography when you do so, why this is going to pay off, or things like that. But yeah, most of the strategies now are going to be to really think about what can you do virtually, what were you all doing in person, and how do you translate that virtually. So these are some of the comments I wanted to highlight here. We're happy to get more comments like these in the next few days if you have any ideas that pop up. So email us with that. So you just had a breakout session about the tool. So what I want you to do for now is the same as what I did last regroup, is I would like your group's main discussion points to be added in the chat box. So we're interested to read those, the reactions you have to the tool, but also what discussion you came up with. So once you wrote your group's point of discussion, just highlight what you think came out of it. Then after that, we only have about time for about one comment or question from the audience. So I'll ask you to raise your hand if you feel like you have an important thought or comment or question about the assessment tool that you just looked through, or if you have any specific questions about part 1 of this tool. Raise your hand and we'll try to select as fairly as possible, as humanly possible, a person that would like to share a reaction with the whole audience. So first, put your main group's discussion point in the chat box, and then once you're done with that, if you have a thought that you would like to share with everyone and with us, raise your hand using the Zoom raise your hand function. Okay, so I'll give you another 30 seconds or so to either post a comment or raise your hand. Okay, so I don't see any hands raised. I don't see any hands raised. That means the tool makes sense, or not at all. There's too many questions to ask. So anyway, if you have any questions about the tool or comments or critical feedback, you can email us. One thing that I would like to mention is I saw a comment earlier about, there was a comment about recruitment and picking a champion in your departments that could champion recruitment and really coordinate all of that. And that's something that Emily and I have discussed in the past, is that yes, there are many faculty that, you know, have this motivation and energy that can show a good face for geography, but really the most effective tool, the most effective champions are your entire department. Some faculty are gonna translate to some students, other faculty are gonna translate to other types of students. So if you only identify one champion, it's only gonna attract one type of student, or maybe two, you know, but so really leverage your entire faculty body. And we've also, Emily also mentioned sometimes the champion, the department or program champion fatigue of always needing to be thinking about recruitment and always needing to be the person at social events is not always, can be exhausting over time. So keep that in mind. Okay, so I wanna turn back to Emily, who's gonna introduce the third breakout, Zoom breakout.
Yeah, so thanks for hanging with us for this. We've got about 15 more minutes for this webinar. And we wanna go back to the Zoom breakout rooms one more time. I think we'll cut it a little shorter this time. Maybe it'll only be about like 6 minutes or so. But what we're really interested in is supporting you. So if there's anything that you were talking about in your rooms with different recruitment strategies and something that you think that the AAG could be doing to help support you in developing those strategies or support you in you know, enacting that strategy, that would be really good for us to know so that we can try to work that out. So I'll open the rooms again and I'll have you guys just again brainstorm for about, we'll say like 5 to 6 minutes, just to see if there's something that the AAG can help you out with, and then we'll come back and we can share those out in the chat before we close the workshop for today. So I'll open these rooms one final time. Say your goodbyes.
How are we gonna do the last share out? How are we gonna do the last share out? So for the last regroup, we do actually want to open up the microphones to everyone. But so to do that, we're gonna do something. We're going to flip. We're going to actually wrap up the webinar so that we then open up the microphones to everyone to actually share in person with your voices. So first, what I would like you to do is, just like the past regroups, write down the thought that you thought was most pertinent or most important that came out of your discussion. So what are some of the suggestions you have for AG? Add them to the chat box. That's something we will go to later on. So you can do that right now. And then I will wrap up the webinar, but don't go away. Stay with us, because we are gonna do this regroup. So we want to thank all of you that have participated today. We are interested to have your input. The survey that is linked here and that I will link in this chat box, it will help us better understand the need for webinars like these, for example. So please take 5 minutes to fill out the survey. This is information that we will definitely look at and inform future webinars on. So please take that time. We truly appreciate that. So I'll link the survey in the chat right now. There it is. And I will come back to the regroup. Okay, and pass the mic to Emily, who is also gonna stop the recording. So we want anyone to be able to talk, and if they don't feel comfortable, if it's being recorded, we're gonna stop the recording right now and have a regroup about any good suggestions that came from your discussions.